Dr. Ed Wonder, Chairman, and with me tonight are board members, Vice Chair David Sweeney, Andrew Sheehan, Mary Beth Welch, and Gail Demore. Also tonight, we have Susan Luminello here, she's the Director of Public Health, Michael Green, the Associate Director of Public Health, Christine Mathis, our environmental engineer, health agent, Health Marlene Johnson, and recording secretary, the guy who makes it happen for us because he takes all the notes, is Eric Bergeron. Thank you very much. Please note that we are live on BCAT and available for appropriate comments and questions through this video technology. And always thank you to BCAT for what you do for this community, keeping us all aware and so well informed. Thank you very much, as always, to BCAT. First is approval of minutes for September 13th, 2022. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have motion approved and second. Is there any errors, omissions, or comments? If not, all in favor? We have 401. Mr. Bergeron, do you have that?
Yep.
Okay. Also, we have tonight subcommittee minutes. Usually I wait for the topic to come up, but why don't we just go ahead and approve them tonight because we have a long agenda and I think they speak for themselves. Do I have a motion to approve the October 18, 2022 subcommittee minutes? I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Demore. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Chairman's report. It will be a little lengthy tonight because we have to address some things. But before I begin my comments, everybody in town knows my Board of Health members, professional staff, and myself as chairman, when asked about a number of issues and questions and to make comments, we always return calls, emails, and sometimes letters. And I want to assure you, we welcome your input anytime. So please feel free to call us. Thus, my report tonight will hopefully provide some background for recent interest involving the new science and the future of this community, Burlington. My comments are entitled New Directions in Community Public Health, the Burlington Board of Health, Our History, and New Responsibilities. For more than 3 decades, this board has been successfully working to clean up a community that was contaminated in many cases by poorly or non-regulated industries. It was post-World War II, in the midst of the Cold War, and a few in the country really understood the impact of chemical and biological waste. No one really knew. No one cared. We were all concerned about national security and not about hazardous waste. The companies who impacted this community, and you know all their names, are gone and have been gone for many years, many decades. And it's taken us a long time for this board to clean up what we now know were environmental mistakes. And we have over the last more than 3 decades worked to remediate. Some were continuing to ultimately ensure a clean community. Now, fast forward to now. But what we call life sciences today is a very different industry and universe. It's quite different than what it was. It is the target of intense regulation from multiple agencies that provide high oversight. These, however, are very important companies. There are, for regulation, federal authorities, including the EPA, OSHA, DEA, U.S. Health and Human Services, state agencies, including the Department of Public Health, Department of Fire Sciences, Public Safety, Emergency Response Commission. Many local departments, including MWRA, and most of all, this Board of Health. For instance, for more than 30 years, the town meeting instituted about 30 years ago, I should say, instituted an environmental engineer, placed it with the Board of Health, whose job is to daily review hazardous materials in this community. She not only coordinates historical cleanup, but inspects and ensures compliance of our hazardous material bylaws within this town. In addition, the Board of Health has created a biotechnology regulation where an institution that is involved in this technology must agree to our local laws, local inspection, as well as the state and national regulations. There is even a requirement to have at least two representatives, one town and one professional member of the Board of Health, who formally sits on institutional review committees of each company. Last, the Board of Health professionals are highly trained and our elected professionals, some with scientific backgrounds which are highly advanced, diverse education and experience, and all committed to environmental insight and community safety. Note, our environmental engineer has an earned degree in chemical engineering. Our associate director is degreed in clinical laboratory sciences with a master's degree in public health, while our director is a recognized expert in community public health, a registered health agent, and trained environmental science professional. Today's life science companies are clean and safe, and they do whatever they can. And they work very hard to keep this community clean and uncontaminated. They use minimal amounts of chemicals, require full protocols for their waste products, have layers of containment, and employ highly trained scientists from all over the world. In Burlington, we have more than a dozen life science companies, diverse institutions ranging from a hospital that does all kinds of medical research to internationally recognized biotechnology companies to a world-renowned academic institution within our town. All under federal, state, and most of all, important local Board of Health regulations and review. Burlington is becoming a new center of science. We all see that. We are always available to discuss one-on-one, if you like, the Board of Health capabilities, responsibilities, and community public health. And I wanted to respond to some people who asked questions, and I open it up to any board members who'd like to make comments or our professional staff, but I'll ask the board first. Anybody like to comment? Or did I say it all?
I think you said.
Thank you, said it all.
Okay,
Nicely rounded.
thank you. Anybody on the professional staff have any additions? Okay. We'll now go to citizens' time. Is there anyone who is not part of our agenda this evening who would like to speak to the board? Is there anybody online?
I don't believe so. I think everyone is here for an application.
Everyone comes. Since we've divided diversity, equity, and inclusion to make a short presentation this evening to assist us in a Board of Health mission statements, I'd like to take them out of order. And also, since we have a variance, Mom's Organic Market, which will not take very much time for an external grease trap, I'd like to take those two out of order in that sequence. Could I please have a motion?
So moved.
Mary Beth, second.
Second.
Second, Andrea Sheehan. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Let me first now. Please, could you come up? You can sit in those chairs, but I'm going to introduce Doctors Addison Reed and Dr. Nancy Bonacera. They are a part of just to make sure I have it right, diversity, equity committee and inclusion committee. And I'd like to give them the floor this evening. And first, thank you so much, both of you, to come. I have been in contact with Dr. Barbara Addison Reed multiple times. I can assure you, she is very academic and very smart and a good speaker, and I want to thank her for coming. And I will not call you Dr. BJ this evening,
Thank you.
even though you have asked me to. Please.
Everybody knows that I prefer to be called BJ. It's a name I gave myself when I was 17 years old, graduating high school and about to enter the world. And I thought I could be Barbara Jean Reed. And I thought, no, how about BJ? And that's what stuck with me. So family, sometimes Barb or Barbie, sometimes Dr. BJ, mom, but always BJ. So thank you for having us. You have a document that we've passed around, and we'd like to begin talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is a committee that's been in place for 1 year as of this month. Nancy and I serve on the committee, and the document that we've given you has on the first page what our background is. So you can read that as you may, or if you have questions, now's the time to try and drive us to answering this question for you. We'd like to also look at page 2, which provides an overview of what the diversity, equity, and inclusion project is like. Look at the first year and what we've been able to accomplish, and that's the process that we designed that we want to put in place. You'll see it on the second page where it begins process, philosophy, and core values. The next approach then is to look at the mission statement, which is why we're visiting all of the boards. We then want to look at diversity, equity, and inclusion goals that each board member wants to put in place. How we make decisions is the next category. How you develop action, strategy, steps that you'll take in order to accomplish the goals. You'll identify what are the expected results that we expect to have. And then the last category is self-appraisal. I did talk with the physician this morning and mentioned to him that I'd sent him an email today, which he hasn't had a chance to read. But what the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee did was reflect upon the efforts that we put forward for the last year. And we did quarterly reports to the select board, which are included in the document that we presented. It was given to Lynn Mills, who will then schedule us to meet with the select board to look at what was our turnaround and where are our efforts to go in the next 2 years. And so that gives you a larger vision of what we're trying to do. If you look at below and the definition there, you'll see what we thought might be the category for how we might look at diversity, equity, and inclusion. And the first is I, which are creative ideas. And some of the elements are listed below that. The second is the strategy. How do you put in place? What are our thoughts? What are our values? How does that control our behavior? And what do we need to put in play for strategy so that it accepts everybody who's working on this project? And then last, we look at what are the applications? Who's responsible? And I will sit here and tell you that every person is responsible for what we do with diversity, equity, and inclusion. And if you have questions, we'll be sure to those. If you look on the third page, we've given you a definition of our categories. The first one looks at what's the definition of diversity. Thesaurus is where we gathered the definition and we put them into use there. I did cover the federal legislation that looks at race as a category that we should pay attention to. And then below that, you look at the definition of equity and the definition of inclusion. With that, I will close my presentation and offer you the opportunity to ask Nancy and me any questions.
Board first?
So, Mr. Chair, what is our role? Well, like, how are we approaching this? Because I know, and maybe Susan, this is to you too. I know we're looking at, I don't even want to say rewriting or redefining, because we probably need to start from square one and define our mission statement. So what are the next steps working with BJ and Nancy?
I believe that that's why BJ is here, is
Yeah.
us to take a look at our mission statement as step one. And that's something that the chairman did say that he wanted to do.
Yeah, we need to do that. I have one question first and some comments. The first question is, we have been learning a lot about not only ethnic and race diversity, but also, and I'll leave this for my Associate Director of Public Health, gender diversity. And does the state and federal definition add that? Or is that, are we just here, are we talking about ethnic and race? And we have been learning a lot about gender diversity as well as ethnicity and race.
It's learning all three categories: diversity, equity, and inclusion. And race is a part of what our reality is. And so that's why the federal legislation is printed there, because we have to understand what the society has generated for hundreds of years.
Mhm.
And it's the opportunity to address it. And again, each of us plays a role in helping all of us to do it together as a group, rather than having it assigned to one person who may have the title of diversity, equity, inclusion for the town of Burlington or the Burlington Public School System. Not one person, it's all of us.
Excellent answer.
I'll add to that. So we look at race here because that's basically what is collected when we look at employment numbers. So we think about diversity in terms of race and ethnicity. And one of the things that myself and BJ have been doing is looking at the data for the town and working with all the different boards and staff and looking at the numbers and like, how can we make those more reflective of what the population is in our town, and then on a larger scale in the state and the country, so.
I would reflect that when this committee was created a year ago, the first opportunity that I took was to meet with several of the chairs to gather the data that had been collected up to that point in time. And I gave copies of all the documents to the participants on the DEI committee during the month of December. We met early in January to reflect what we learned, and then wrote a document to share with several of the executives to say what we had learned had already happened in Burlington. We then next moved to preparing a report that was submitted to the select board the 28th of February to tell them what the data says. And it appears as though there's a lot of opportunity here to build strength in that area. And so that's what we've done throughout the year, to begin to look at what's the definition by the select board for their mission statement, and then what are the execs of the 7 groups that are on the board, as well as the select board, looking at to how each of those groups may define their mission statement. And it's okay, given your responsibility of what you're doing for health. There may be issues that you want to look at differently from somebody who is doing the planning board or somebody who's doing recreation. So that's why we are elevating the opportunity to meet with each group to begin the educational process.
Well, thank you. This is very important. This is very important. Any other comments from our professional staff or anybody, other comments here? I'll tell you that as we spoke earlier this evening, your committee has a timeline and expiration. And this is the first time we're looking at this, and we need to take a look at our mission statement. We really do, in light of this, because it has to include diversity, equity, and inclusion. It has to. And I thank you for what all I ask is, if we get to a point and we have some questions, are you available?
Of course.
I knew the answer to that because you've always been available. But this is a first step. And thank you very much. And let's call. If not, we're going to take the first step. I know my,
I just have one,
sure.
Nancy, the April 2023, that 90-minute, that's presentation, are you going in front of a board? Is that,
We can do that. This is just an opportunity.
right?
How we lay it out. It depends upon what the board calls for. We've met with another board and suggested that we meet twice in January, twice in February, 3 times in March to get through the data. This board may decide differently how they want to address being in the room where we have conversations and we explore, what do we think about diversity? What do we think about equity? What do we think about inclusion?
And where will that presentation
Yeah,
take
that's what I
place?
was-
Where is that presentation? That before the selectmen, or is that?
It's all 7 boards and the select.
Yeah, the dates here were basically just an example of what kind of process we go through, and these dates kind of came with what we did with the select board and what we proposed. One thing I want to add as we go through this is each board is kind of in a different place, just as individuals are in different places, and I really appreciate that you're already recognizing and committed to including diversity, equity, and inclusion in your mission statement, how your board works, because and you've probably seen and heard that there are kind of different places for each of the boards, and people are also at different places in far as what have they done with their mission statement, where they are in their journeys. And it's the way that BJ approaches it is not just on a board basis, but actually on an individual basis. So depending on what you want to do, and of course, given what time you might have, we're very interested in working with you in a more informal setting where there's an opportunity for discussion and conversations that are candid in a safe space, and also just being able to ask the questions that maybe you wouldn't do in a public setting, or maybe you haven't had a chance to ask before. So that's basically what we're.
I don't want to interrupt you.
Oh, yeah, no problem. I'm pretty much done.
You said the word safe space. Is the meetings that we would be to have discussions, would those be in a open meeting?
You mean discussions with them?
Yes.
I don't know if that's required under their committee.
Because of their different.
Have done one with the select board and one with the planning board, and those were in person, and they had to be publicly posted, but they
They were not
weren't
filmed.
online, they weren't recorded,
Okay.
and
Okay.
people tend not to choose to come to those, so it has worked out. And then as people, as a discussion goes, it just kind of organically progresses to what do we want to focus on. It's not like one size fits all. It's very open and interactive.
Well, this is a
Thank
first,
you.
thank you.
Yeah, I just want to add to, just for the board's knowledge and for their knowledge. In the past year, one of our focus areas for the Medical Reserve Corps program was to work on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we've been trying to do that, trying to brainstorm ideas to get volunteers from the community who are diverse in our volunteer group. So Mike's been working on that. And that's what the trainings were that we had, not only to try to recruit more diverse volunteers, but also to educate our own volunteers. We have about 130 or 5 so volunteers now from the community on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that's what those trainings are for. So, we're going to continue that, but it sounds like they would be a great resource for us to kind of reach out to and maybe help with ideas on how to recruit people from the community into our organization.
And you're welcome to join that organization. Just call the Board of Health office, who would send you over the application materials, but we'd love to have you too. But this is a first step, a step that we need to take because this is such an important area. And I have to thank you for bringing it not only to the Board of Health, but bringing it to Burlington. It really needed to be brought to Burlington. And I thank you both, doctors, and thank you both. And as we go forward, I'm sure we'll be speaking again. So thank you so much for coming.
Oh, we look forward to working with you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll next do variance Mom's Organic Market, 34 Cambridge Street. Are they here?
Yes, that's Mr. Schneider.
Is Mr. Schneider, is he online?
It's online.
He's online. Mr.
Is he-
Schneider?
He's going to put his camera on. Sean, if you can hear me, if you could put your camera on.
I don't see
He's on the bottom there.
In the middle,
in the middle.
the Brady Bunch bottom.
Are you able to communicate with him?
No.
Yeah, well, I was,
Mr. Snyder, can you put your camera on?
Sounds like he's on mute.
And you're on mute, I'm sure, Mr. Snyder.
let me see if I can message him directly. Just messaged him.
We'll wait one more minute and then we'll move on.
We could, or we
We don't
could talk.
necessarily need him unless.
Well, I
we
want
feel-
him to understand, what his responsibilities are.
He did receive the paperwork, so
And
Text him?
he's probably having technical difficulties.
I can't text him, but I
check.
messaged him on the chat, but he hasn't responded.
Do you want to skip him, try to come back? and
We'll
we can make a
try to come
decision?
back and make a decision later with the board.
Okay.
Which brings me now to permits. Florida, 60 Blanchard Road, biological safety permit. Would you please come up, state your name, introduce yourself, and please sign in. Please print so we.
Great, will do. Good evening. Thank you everyone for having us. I'm Sharon Tan, Vice President of Program Management from Garuda Therapeutics. On the phone and on the video, I have my colleagues, Dr. Georgia Scapen, who's our Senior Vice President of R&D, of R&D, and Corey Martin as our safety consultant from Spotlight Solutions, representative from Azure, Clean Room on Demand, Paul Paulino. So thank you very much for having us here. Shall we start off with the presentation?
Please.
So, as you,
Excuse me, could you just pull the microphone a little closer to you?
okay, I'll
Make
speak
sure.
a little louder.
Thank you so much.
So Garuda Therapeutics, we are based in Cambridge currently. We're focused on hematopoietic stem cell-based therapies. We're here today because we're expanding our manufacturing at Azure Clean Room and based in Burlington. And if there's any questions today, we also have Paul Paulino from Azure Clean Rooms. We'll be occupying, we'll see from the presentation, 3 clean rooms from in Azure. And we've been working with them on ensuring that safety and any waste management is handled appropriately. So for us, Garuda, we have a very experienced leadership team. Our CEO and founder, Dr. Shah, and Dr. Skippen, who's on the phone here, are experts in the blood disorder and stem cell arena. Our Chief Regulatory Officer, Dr. Desiderio, and also our Chief Financial Officer, Dr. Saudi, are also experts in the drug development field with decades of experience. Next slide. I'm going to hand over to Dr. Skippen from here for the technical, and she's going to walk through our technology, what we're developing, and all the many uses, including, I think there were some questions and interest in Cas9, and we've added a slide here for presentation as well.
Thank you.
So Georgia, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So at Garuda, we use induced pluripotent stem cell to develop off-the-shelf hematopoietic stem cell or blood stem cells. And our goal is really to use this off-the-shelf hematopoietic stem cell to treat all the patient in needs of an hematopoietic stem cell transplant. So hopefully down the line, nobody will ever look for a bone marrow donor anymore. And such strategy will allow us to cure more than 70 blood and bone marrow disorders. And in addition, since we are the only one that can make true hematopoietic stem cell in vitro, we have also developed protocols for their differentiation into blood lineages, like T cell, NK cells, platelets, so we can enter the field of immunotherapy and transfusion medicine. Next slide, please. And again, our mission is to make the world free of blood and bone marrow disorders and to provide a therapy that is available to everyone. And to do that, we use immune-compatible iPSCs to generate off-the-shelf hematopoietic stem cell therapies. Next slide, please. Thank you. And contrarily to the commonly used personalized approach, focus on the development of one product for one patient to treat one disease. Next slide, please. With our approach, we can generate an off-the-shelf source of immune-compatible hematopoietic stem cell that could be used to cure multiple patients and multiple disease. And our differentiation protocol involves 4 steps. So we first have to expand the iPSCs, then we have to promote the formation of embryonic bodies and the specification of the population of interest, which is the hemogenic endothelial cells. Next, we sort these hemogenic endothelial cells and we further differentiate them into hematopoietic stem cell. And the technique that we use are mainly cell culture of human iPSCs and their differentiation to hematopoietic stem cell and their differentiation into blood lineages. And we also use bioreactor to scale up our cell culture processes. And in addition, we perform gene editing experiment, mainly using the CRISPR-Cas9 system and the electroporation of the RNP, and lot of flow cytometry and gene and protein expression analysis. And this is just a brief overview about the CRISPR-Cas9 system that is formed of the Cas9 nuclease that is combined with some guide RNA to form the RNP or the ribonucleoprotein complex. And the guide RNA are able to target the Cas9 to the specific region of the DNA that we want to edit, so the Cas9 can perform a double-strand break of the DNA. And we use this system, we deliver this system through the electroporation to our cell of interest to perform our genetic knockout.
So hold on. I asked Garuda to please take a minute or two and to explain CRISPR to the community. And because many of the new scientific companies coming to Burlington are using CRISPR. And I'm going to ask Ms. Tan, Dr. Tan, is it?
Ms. Tan.
Tan, Ms. Tan, for a 10-year-old who may be watching tonight, explain what CRISPR does.
Well, I'm going to hand over to Dr. Skippen, who can.
Okay, you what does CRISPR do? Why do you do it? And what is it? Just in very briefly. I understand this. In fact, my doctorate is in hematopoietic stem cells. So can you just very basically, why do you do CRISPR? What does it do? And what does it lead to? Just for, let's say, a 10-year-old, because many people don't have the scientific backgrounds that we do.
Of course. So The goal of this experiment is to remove a specific gene. So we don't want this gene to be present anymore because we don't want a specific protein to be expressed. So we use this system that is very simple. We have an enzyme that is an entity which is able to cut, and a guide RNA that is basically something that is able to make sure that the enzyme can go to the right place. And we combine these two components together so we can very easily perform the edit that we want to do in the DNA.
So you're changing someone's DNA or the DNA that you're going to be using to help them make proteins that will cure their disease.
We are going to simply remove a little piece so that piece is not expressed anymore.
Mhm. Good, thank you. Thank you very much, very good.
Okay, so just back to, in terms of our manufacturing that will be occurring in the Azure on-demand clean room, we will be occupying 3 separate clean rooms, and each of these clean rooms are ISO 7 clean rooms and very specific to specific processes within our overall drug manufacturing. We'll start with the first one that will be focused on very specific ones, specific processes to reprogram the cells. And then second one will be gene editing, and then for our drug product. These are all very separate, so they will not be intermingling or we will not be conducting certain work that is not specified within those. It are all designed as a BSL-2 route and a class 2 biosafety clean room. Access is limited based on training and of all our manufacturing employees, and they have access to specific clean rooms based on the dedicated work that they'll be handling in those clean rooms. Next slide. This is a floor plan of the facility. The highlighted yellow clean rooms are the ones dedicated to at Azure, with offices also corresponding to the clean rooms. There are staging areas within Azure that will handle the waste. The arrows here show where the waste will be brought out into the staging areas and then into their warehouse. Biological materials that we'll be handling in the clean rooms will be human sources, animal materials, viral vectors, and non-pathogenic E. coli. And of course, the CRISPR-Cas9 that we talked about. Safety protocols, policies are in place. We take that very seriously. We have also lab procedures that every employee working in the clean rooms will adhere to. They will have protective gear and will be suited in the clean room suits with safety glasses, gloves, and head covering and hood covering. Next slide. Of course, no drinks or any food that's handled in there. Is just very specific and focus on the manufacturing that we are and processes that we are dedicated in each clean room. Have an IBC and we'll meet annually, and the roster is finalized, and we did meet prior to this thing and provided. Next slide. I think that is the last slide.
Their
Oh,
waste,
waste management.
This-
Waste management all handled at Azure with two vendors. Viola will be handling all our liquid bio waste and Stericycle all our solids and any other waste that is sharps and um, solids, right? Yeah, so all that is contracted out and no waste will be, there are no drains that won't be poured into any drains. It will all be collected and removed from the site via these contracted out. Yeah. I think that's the last slide. Any questions from?
I have a few, Mr. Chair, if I could.
Please do,
Yeah.
because I have a number of them
Sure.
also.
So thank you for that. I appreciate the background and what you're intending to do. So how many employees are you gonna have in the Burlington facility?
Approximately 10 employees. We are scaling up for each clean room. So each clean room would have around 6 employees. So we'll start with about 10 for the first 2. And then the third one is likely going to be started in May this year. And we could have around another 6. So in total, it could be around 20 employees.
And how many do you have in Cambridge facility?
In Cambridge, currently in total plus administrative, we're about 50 plus.
And currently, are you handling the same human and animal biological materials in Cambridge?
Yes, we
And
have.
do these employees have experience
Yes, they're all trained there.
in Cambridge?
Manufacturing.
Great, thank you. And the last question I have is more, I guess, for either Christine or Susan. So has yours been up and running for two years, maybe, year and a half, something like that? About 2 years. Are they at full capacity with Garuda going in or close to it? And have we had any, it seems like they've been running pretty smoothly. Have we had any issues with them?
No issues, and Mike and I did a inspection of Azure early last winter. And Paul Palladino from Azure is on the line.
Yeah.
Paul, are you at capacity? With the addition of Garuda?
Yes, with Garuda moving in, all 20 clean rooms will be licensed out.
Awesome.
Yeah, we've had no issues.
No issues. Great. No other questions, Mr. Chair.
Anybody else? Because I have a number from the board before
I just have one clarification that I just want to, if I can get back, I guess I can't, I'm trying to get back to the previous slide. Yeah, when you meet, there's a note in here, towards the bottom, Garuda will meet at least annually and as needed to review new and amended protocols. This, if it's a new protocol, then you need to come back for a permit. I just want to make that clear. This permit is for the protocols that you submitted as part of your application. Okay, good point.
Thank you.
Any questions from the board? Well, let me start. You're using retrovirus and lentivirus.
So we primarily.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, finish.
You have BSL 3 checked off. You list BSL 2 for the both of these for lentivirus. Is it BSL 2 plus, is which we have seen and defined here in a number of cases? Please explain to me why your lentivirus, which is it BSL 2 or BSL 3?
So,
Yeah, go ahead, Georgia.
no, please, Sharon, go ahead, then I'll finish.
So we are between a BSL 2 and 3, so we therefore we checked off 3 just for to be on the conservative side.
That was the risk group. So they're risk group 3, BSL 2.
Should they be a 2+ though?
Should
They're
be.
not a 2+. Maybe Georgia can explain to.
Yep, why are you not 2+ and why are you 3? And 3, do they need a?
The risk group 3 is, according to the NIH guidelines, lentivirus is risk group 3 agent. However, they're using third and fourth generation, is third and
Well,
fourth.
explain to that the third, fourth generations has to do with replication, I think.
Yes, so these lentiviral particles will not be able to replicate. So it's really one-time use and they are done. And I also want to specify that all our knockout experiment will be done with the RMP, so it's not based on the lentiviral. So it's just simple electroporation. So the lentiviral work will be very minimal and not related to any scale-up process.
So it cannot replicate. Is that correct?
Exactly. It's
Can
correct.
it, so it cannot infect, is that correct?
Exactly.
Okay, so is it biological safety level 3 or 2? What did you,
It's two.
it's 2, but you checked off 3.
No, they checked off risk group 3,
Risk group
safety level 2.
2, okay, I wanted to make sure that that,
Add, Mike?
Yeah, the third and fourth generation, they're missing 3 genome segments that are required for replication. So these are commercially available off-the-shelf products that are demonstrated to be third and fourth generation, not replicatable. So other establishments in town are creating their own, and that's where the heightened security was.
so the lentivirus cannot mutate because it's off the shelf, is that correct?
Yes, we are not making our own. We're just gonna buy them from
Okay.
vendors.
Okay,
So Susan, is that why they're not a BSL2 or wouldn't be a BSL2?
They are BSL 2.
2 plus, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the 2+ designation, so the biosafety level is determined by the principal investigator, who then brings it to the IBC, and they vote and decide what biosafety level should be used based on what they're using and, their protocol. So in this event, the principal investigator brought biosafety level 2 to the IBC, and they voted on it, and they approved biosafety level 2 for what they were doing.
Okay,
okay,
thank you.
all right. And then I'm going to ask you to do a couple things in your application, which are minor, but we think they're important. Under your emergency action plan, 6.2.4, and under your chemical hygiene plan, 14.3.4, you list the Burlington Fire Department. And I think I don't see who, I have to look at Burlington Fire and Police Department
Mhm.
for those two. You do not list the Board of Health. We have an environmental engineer, and I'm going to ask, as part of the approval process, that you add the Board of Health to that, to those two, police and fire, because we administrate the hazardous materials bylaw and the biotechnology regulation. So we're going to ask you to add those two to the, I think it's easy to do.
Yep.
And it will cut down on any issues. We hope there are never issues, but if there are issues, that the Board of Health needs to be called immediately.
Okay,
Okay?
definitely, we can add that.
Okay, if you can do that, that's, let's see if there's anything else. I have one question for the Associate Director of Public Health. Who is the community representative?
We had Dr. Alan Wexelblatt was our community rep for this.
Alex Wexelblatt, good, okay. I have no other questions. Satisfied. Does anybody else have any? Our reading for this weekend was, and if that's all I can find, I think we're in good shape.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the biological safety permit for Garuda, 60 Blanchard Road.
Second.
And I have a second. Any other discussion? No discussion is welcome to Burlington.
Thank you very much.
We would like you to get involved here. We'd like you to become a partner within this community. Burlington, as you heard earlier, is becoming a center for science. And we're so happy that you came here, and we hope that you send your other 50 employees here at some other point. All in favor?
Aye.
500. Welcome to this community.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You.
Thank you.
All right. Brings us to hearing 111 Middlesex Turnpike. It's listed as a nuisance violation. I guess that's what it is. But I think we've been through this quite a bit. Please come in and sign in.
I know some people get offended by the word nuisance, right? So.
I've been called.
And I would never call Mark a nuisance, yeah.
Raymer and Bronstein.
That they're a nuisance.
They called me worse.
Yeah. Just teasing.
Thank you.
Raymer Bronstein.
Please introduce yourself to the community, Mark.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. For the record, Attorney Mark Vaughn, the law firm of Raymer Bronstein. Pleased to be before you tonight, representing Brixmore, owner of the property at Middlesex Turnpike. With me is Mary Hollebeek, who I believe you've met previously. She's Director of Property Management for Brixmore, and actually located at this location. So for you tonight, I know that this is a continued dialogue from a prior meeting that we've had, and I want to, thank staff as well as board members, McSweeney and the chair, who participated in a site walk that we had last month out at the site with Brian Dundon, who's our engineer with RJ O'Connell, who had a conflict tonight, couldn't be here, along with Matt Heel, who's with Sanborn Head, that were kind of looking into this. So what we have implemented, Chairman, and again, just to kind of step back, I know the concern that was expressed from the board and from staff is the periodic ponding that was taking place in a portion of that parking lot nearest Vine Brook. And the concern was that, particularly with the winter months approaching, it could perhaps result in an unsafe condition with the water ponding and icing over and, creating some type of a safety concern. So we've looked into it as well as the maintenance obligations that I know Brixmore is committed to. And a plan was prepared and submitted to Susan last Friday that I suspect has made its way to you. But basically, whereby that portion of the parking lot in the corner there that is prone to periodic flooding and a very heavy rain event, we have actually separated off with Jersey barriers to make sure that there's no utilization of that.
Yeah,
No, it actually has been implemented. It went into place Monday of this week.
I was there today. It wasn't there.
They're there.
No, they are there.
Yeah.
They were placed yesterday morning.
There's a dumpster there.
No,
That's not,
not by the ponding
okay, I'll
site.
get by, take a look again. Okay.
Maybe we're talking about a different location.
Yeah. Okay. I take it with her. Thank you.
They wanted to get them in this week just with the holiday coming. And, as we know, our weather patterns in this area can be a bit fickle at times in terms of, what's going to happen any given day. So the commitment is to have those in place up until the end of March so that area would not be an area that the public would be able to use in terms of parking vehicles, pedestrian activity, so on and so forth. So in addition, I know that Brixmore is committed to engage in the maintenance, which they have been engaged in over the past month on a more routine basis, whereby all of the catch basins are going to continue to be inspected and cleaned on a quarterly basis every 3 months. And then the stormwater basin itself, if you recall, that needs to be inspected annually and cleaned annually upon inspection. That was most recently done in March of '22. So there was a 5-year permit that's being issued from Natural Heritage. if you recall, because there's an endangered species that's in that area, that permit is actually going to be renewed for another 5 years. I've spoken to Mr. Dundon, and the paperwork's being submitted so that we get an additional 5-year period of time to be able to do that basin cleaning. It's a little bit beyond my pay grade, but I guess as I understand it, the species, is it the bridle fish, I believe? Is that?
Shiners.
Bridle shiner, yeah, needs to be kind of relocated while that happens, while the basin's clean. So it's a little bit involved, but that's going to be done so that the basin would be inspected again and cleaned this coming March of '23. So we feel that with that maintenance ongoing, that if there is a heavy storm event, that there may be a short-term ponding in that area, but it would dissipate if everything's cleaned and maintained properly. So, the most immediate concern, as it was expressed to us, obviously, was just, trying to, during the winter months, prevent that area from being utilized in the event of a slip or a fall or whatever it might be. So if you go down there tomorrow, Mr. Chairman, you will see that the Jersey barriers have been installed. And I think we lose probably about 15 parking spaces in that corner, but fortunately or unfortunately, however way you want to look at it, there's some vacancies in the plaza, so we don't feel that that's going to cause a problem right now in terms of the site. So, and I would add maybe on a more global basis that there's been discussions that have been ongoing with planning staff and with the Economic Development Director, Melissa Tentakoulis, about some zoning initiatives that are being contemplated along Mall Road and Middlesex Turnpike as part of the Mall Road corridor, and trying to update zoning to be more responsive of what today's realities are. And, one of those, for example, is that this site is in the BG zone where they don't allow structured parking, for example. So we're going to continue to have that dialogue. And I know that Mark Newman, who heads up development for Brixmor, has been having some pretty, lengthy conversations with Melissa and I think also with planning staff, but I'm not exactly sure. There's been a little bit of turnover in planning staff, as you know, just about ways that in the future, the site might be able to be redeveloped in a manner that is kind of more responsive to what's going on out there in terms of Vine Brook. So, meaning that there might be an opportunity to pull some of that pavement away and provide structured parking, which we can't do now. But because that area is also in the floodplain too, I would add. So, so I, just wanted to, convey to the board and staff, and I appreciate Susan got on the phone with us yesterday. We had a Zoom call with Brian Dundon, our engineer, who unfortunately has a conflict. I think he's in the city of Brockton tonight for a planning board hearing or something, but just reiterating what, I explained to the board right now, but, I just wanted to convey that we understand the board's concern, and we're trying to do everything within our power to make sure that it's addressed. And, I would like to think that if you see what we've done now, that certainly during the winter months, it's not going to be an issue. So, but thank you.
Members of the board, any comments?
Mr. Chair, I have probably a question or a comment, but and thank you, and thanks, Brixmor. I know this has been an arduous process for you, probably for you folks seems like a minor issue, but certainly needs to be addressed. So thanks, Mark, for coming back and talking about it. I guess I just want to make sure that it's clear, or maybe I just want to get clarification from you that in March, it's not going to be just inspected, that we're going to clean it. And I'll make a follow-up comment to that in a second. So I just want to make sure that March, we are on the schedule. It's going to be cleaned out, whether or not somebody looks at it and feels like it should be or shouldn't be, like it's going to be cleaned out. And the reason why I'm making that statement is that they're in your engineer's report. They did make a comment that it was cleaned out. And then a week later, there was a rain and it cleaning out didn't really work. And I just want to make sure that we're trying to fix the problem, but we need to do something in order to see what the results are, right? Because what I'm fearful is going to happen is that we inspect it. You don't feel like it needs to be cleaned in March. We go through a rainy season. We're going to see puddling there. And, the engineer that Brixmore hired, your engineer, their opinion was it had nothing to do with the basin, that it had to do with the turning off of the pumps and the water station, which is only gonna get worse because we're going to, over time, turn off more pumps there, right? So it could potentially be a Band-Aid approach here, because I think we're gonna have a bigger issue potentially down the road, right? Nobody has a crystal ball for that. But I just want to make sure that we get commitment that it's not going to be just inspected, but in March it's going to be clean, so we can see how it reacts through rainy season next year.
Do you know if that is the case? When it gets inspected, does it, I imagine the way it works, David, when it's inspected, whoever's doing the inspection, if they feel that there's any sediment that's been built up that needs to be cleaned out, they would do it. I don't think they're going to go through an inspection and say, all right, well, it's only, maybe it should be cleaned, or maybe.
I just think the subjectivity around that, and I would like a commitment that it's actually, like, if there's any sediment in there, that it gets cleaned, that it's not an opinion that it's not enough sediment to be cleaned.
They do clean the catch basins quarterly to keep that sediment out, which prevents it from going into the storm
Right.
basin. So that does help eliminate an excess buildup quickly. And it is my understanding that we will clean it every 2 years, but inspect it annually, and during the annual inspection, if it's found to need cleaning, if it has excess sediment at that point, they will go ahead and schedule the cleaning annually if needed.
Go ahead, Susan.
I believe it's already, by the time we get to March of 2023, that's 2 years.
Right.
So you're at the 2-year point in March. So it will need to be cleaned.
No, 23, I was just saying it's every 2 years anticipated after that.
So I guess the answer is, the commitment is in March of 2023, it will be cleaned out.
It will.
Yeah, and then, so what she's saying is that then in March of 2024, it will be inspected and cleaned if necessary. March of 2025, it will be cleaned,
Correct.
right? So when does your permit expire?
It actually expires this year. It's in for renewal now.
So will you get that renewal by March of 2023? Okay.
Yeah, that's the plan. And my understanding is Brian Dundon's already communicated with whoever to make sure it's doable.
And Susan, do we get I don't think we do, right? We don't get any type of report or comments from the inspection or cleaning?
No, I guess we could.
Can we ask Brixmore to submit, it was inspected on this day, it was clean, or it wasn't clean, there was inches of sediment?
You certainly can, because that would just mean that they're complying with the order,
Right. Sure.
so, yeah.
I just think it holds them accountable to the cleaning on schedule, or the inspection on schedule, and also keeps us informed with what was found there.
So I'm a little confused.
So hold on, Ed. So can we get commitment that you can supply a report?
Provide you copies as well.
Yeah.
Okay, good, thank you, Bob.
Yeah.
So, sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay.
When it rains really badly there, it really floods badly. And I was told by your first group of engineers, it had to do with the water table and the hydrostatic pressure pushing the water up rather than allowing the water to go down. And if that's the case, cleaning it is only going to make it worse if your original engineers are telling me that, because to allow the hydrostatic pressure and push more water up into the parking lot. So I'm a little concerned about that. I like the fact that you're going to put the Jersey barriers there. Is there any interest in abandoning those parking spaces and putting in green space? Now, I made a phone call today to the building inspector and who handles zoning, and he said that he'd have no problem with that if you went to the Board of Appeals, and to just abandon that and make it look nice and not have Jersey barriers there. That's your decision, not mine. But I just wanted you to know that I had done some work on that, and that is an option that you can do. You're going to lose those parking spaces no matter what. because come March, I'll bet you nickels to donuts, you're gonna have a sea there again. You're gonna have a big pond there because your engineers, at least from my understanding, told me you're gonna have a pond there because the water table is so high. And again, we're not gonna be pumping drinking water out there ever again. We're never. So it's just gonna get higher and higher and pushing back up. So I am hopeful. I'm willing to give it a try. I'm hopeful, but I got to tell you that you may want to talk to your original civil engineers because you may have a worse problem. I don't know. And so I just want to let you know that thank you for the barriers. I think that's important. I asked, you didn't want to, because your own staff told me that, it gets pretty bad there during the winter when it freezes, that you put your snow there. Yeah, I'm sure you're gonna still put your snow there.
No, we're not going to put the snow there.
You're not gonna put the snow.
The snow won't be stored there. And if I could just make to your, our engineer is still of the opinion that there has been a rise in the elevation of the water. And their feeling is that it is related to taking the wells off. So that is their feeling. I know others may disagree with it, but we're kind of left in the situation where we are, where we're trying to address it as best we can. And, they're out there on a daily basis. My understanding is that in a very heavy storm event, if everything is maintained properly, that the water may pond there, but over a 24-hour period, it dissipates. Is that correct?
That's correct. Even after the hurricane rainfalls where it rained so heavily, it did pond, not as bad as it has in the past, but it did pond, but it had completely dissipated within less than 24 hours.
And as it relates to the parking, and I appreciate your conversation with the building inspectors, and it would require a variance, but we would lose, right now, we're underparked from a zoning perspective. So if we lost that amount of parking, it would be problematic from not only a zoning perspective, but also from a practical perspective in terms of being able to successfully lease out the plaza. So, look, we're going to continue to have discussions with the town about what we might be able to do to address this in the future through, some creative redevelopment opportunities, but we're trying to do the best we can right now with the situation that we have.
Well, for the record, we're not worried, we're not interested in the redevelopment opportunities. We're interested in the safety of people in your parking lot. And I think that's the issue. And that has always been my issue. And I know the issue of the board is the safety of people in the parking lot. And I think the Jersey barriers during the winter are going to help a lot.
I think that we'll have a good solid year focused on cleaning and, because I know it looks like it wasn't as closely adhered to in the past as it had been in the past year or so, right? So I feel okay saying, let's give it a shot with regular cleaning and understanding and looking at after rainy season next spring and summer, what it looks like. Mike, I'll go back to my original comments based upon your engineers and kind of what Ed was just saying too. Your engineer's opinion that it was, the water table's raised because the pumps are shut off. I mean, I think you need to start thinking what the long-term plan is, because if that is true and the regular cleaning and sticking to the regular cleaning doesn't work, there is a bigger issue that we're probably going to need to address after next year.
Understood.
Yeah.
So we hope that.
Go ahead, Susan.
Yeah, I just have a suggestion. So, when they first came to a meeting and, John Sanchez, the superintendent of public works, was here, there was a little bit of discussion about the weir. So, the suggestion is that, when you do clean out the basin and you've got all the water out, maybe you could have somebody take a look at the weir and make sure that that's not blocked, there's not vegetation in the way, so that for when the water moves out of the basin, it's moving successfully from the basin to the tributary in the back. And making sure that the basin is still currently working according to the original design. Because that was the original design. I think what he had said at that meeting was originally that weir was really long. And now it's shortened because of all of the vegetation that's covering it. So maybe just might help, it might not, but just kind of while you're doing it, maybe taking a look at clearing that out if you can to maybe help with the functioning of the basin.
No, nuisance vegetation is part of our quarterly inspection and control. They do monitor that and remove any nuisance vegetation.
We'll convey that to Brian as well to, yeah. And we've looked at, I know there's been other theories that have been put out there as well that, and I'm not saying that's not a valid theory, but like John Keeley, if you recall, when we were here, it indicated that the adjoining property, it's a different ownership group where the Work and Gear site is, I forget what the address or what the name of that plaza is, but it indicated that they had come to his board, the commission, because their parking lot and driveway actually sunk. So they needed to restore it to its original topographical height, if you would, what it was designed for. We looked at this, I should say Brian Dundon and RJ O'Connell looked at it, and he checked the current grades versus the design grades from years ago, and it was within an inch. So it really hasn't settled. So, you know, that's not the, we thought that might be, you know, kind of the aha thing. So
Does Brixmor own all the way down to Staples? Like so you own Staples all the way up to Wendy's?
No, not to Wendy's, just to where Blaze Pizza is.
Yeah.
Duluth Trading up to Wendy's is a different owner.
But you own that parking spot where this is?
Yeah.
And it was the parking lot by Duluth that John Keeley was referring to?
Yes, yeah. Closest to the brook.
But you own Staples?
I do.
Yep.
Okay. So, Ms. Director, where do we go from here? There's a nuisance violation. Do we have to vote on anything at this point in time?
No, so it will continue being open,
Okay,
and they're gonna clean the basin in March.
See how next year.
Continue with what they're proposing, which would be the continued maintenance and cleaning of the catch basins, cleaning of the basin. Now, I also just wanted to add too, in the order of conditions for the Concom, it does state that the basin will be inspected and cleaned every year. So to be in compliance with Concom, it does require cleaning every year, but, you know, we'll get the reports that you get, we'll watch it, so when it's a rainstorm, we'll go out and take a look. And hopefully, that's what's gonna happen. We're gonna expect if there's a heavy rain, it's gonna pond there, but if it's gone in a day or two, then that's fine. You know, that would be okay, as long as it's not sitting there for days and weeks the way it was.
What it was before.
Yeah.
And who does your maintenance and cleaning of the basin and catch basins? You know?
Is it this company?
Mhm.
Aqualis?
Oh, yeah, I just. Yeah. Thank you.
okay, thank you. Well, I guess thank you for coming. Still remain, thank you for coming. Thank you for agreeing to send us the reports. We'll assume that you will do that. And although we like seeing you, I hope we don't see you again. Good night, good night. Have a nice holiday.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming in. Yeah, happy Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving. This, do discussion, then we'll come back.
Well, we still have.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's good.
received an email,
Yes.
sent an email to him. And Sean, are you able to,
He is not,
okay,
so he,
can hear us?
right, so I'm gonna communicate with him through the chat.
Okay, perfect.
So if there's a question, he can hear what you're saying and he'll type it back.
Yeah, okay. So I'll give the
Please.
board a background. So Mom's Organic Market is coming to Burlington at 34 Cambridge Street. Sean is the Director of Construction and Facilities, representing Mom's for the variance. And the primary business, it's a grocery store. And they don't have any departments such as a deli or a meat department. They don't have any of that. The only preparation is going to be some self-service containers and such, where the utensils would have to be washed, rinsed, and sanitized. They'll have whole produce that might need to be washed, so they'd use the wear wash sink for that. So they're not going to be generating really very little to none fats, oils, and grease. So they're looking for a variance from the Burlington Board of Health's grease interceptor regulations, section 4, part A, that requires installation of an external grease interceptor. They will have an internal grease interceptor connected to the 3-compartment sink. They did provide an application. My recommendation to the board is to vote to approve the variance from section 4, part A, and allow the new food service establishment to operate without installing an external grease interceptor with the following condition, and I'll read this condition. The food service establishment operator and the property owner both understand that this variance may be subject to revocation, suspension, or expiration as determined by the Board of Health. A variance under these regulations may be revoked, modified, or suspended only after the food service establishment has been notified in writing and given an opportunity to be heard at a regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Health. Reasons for revocation, modification, or suspension of a variance include, but are not limited to, a determination that the food service establishment is discharging grease in quantities sufficient to cause sanitary sewer line blockages or increased maintenance of sewer lines.
Does that give them a schedule when it should be cleaned?
The internal, yes, so that's in our regulations.
That's in our regulations. It'll be cleaned and they will keep a log.
Correct.
Where's 34 Cambridge Street?
So that's over by Target, over in that plaza.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There's a CVS over there. They're taking, I think there was a liquor store that moved out of there, a small liquor store, and they're taking a couple of
There was a nail
storefronts.
place over there too. Wasn't there a nail place?
And the arrow's there, right?
Yeah.
And they're still there, yes,
How many locations does Mom, is this her first location or
in Massachusetts, yeah.
in Massachusetts?
So, Mr. Snyder apologizes for the inconvenience and says, he's right next to Panera in Party City.
Does he agree to all of the conditions put forward by our health agent?
Absolutely.
Okay. With that, the pleasure of the board.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve, hold on. Give me 1 second. The variance for external grease interceptor for Mom's Organic Market, 34 Cambridge Street.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. Do you get that?
Yes.
Okay. Any of the discussion? Then all in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Mr. Snyder, we welcome you to Burlington. We hope you do well and happy holidays, happy Thanksgiving.
He said he's excited to come to town. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate the support and you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Sean.
And Susan, you can always be an interpreter.
Discussion, 2023 Board of Health meeting schedule. We all received it. I have one question. What happened to the first meeting in April?
Isn't that the election?
That should have been changed. That was not changed. It was on there.
No.
Wait, what?
What first?
Oh, because
April
it's choosing it right after the election, right?
Yeah.
It's on, no, it's,
First.
you must have printed it out. It's on there.
Yeah, because it is
Here.
on the,
Who would give,
idea,
you
yeah,
got your
It's
copy,
on there. Right
it's
here.
right there,
one was presented.
April 11.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's on the one that's in the board book.
Yeah.
The only thing, December 26th, like,
I know.
do we want to leave it on there? I mean,
It was there. I said,
Do we want to discuss it?
I'm gonna be
Take it off.
yeah, I'm not gonna be there, I can tell you. Now, so.
Can I answer the 12th? But the 26th.
So I would
agree
recommend we
with you.
take off the 26th, but that's just a recommendation. I don't know if it makes a big deal.
Oh, we can wait, and you could just cancel.
You could
we
always
just think,
cancel.
we could just cancel it. You just leave it on there.
Doesn't matter to me. I'm just
We'll
saying.
leave it
that
on there. We'll
it-
get canceled.
It is going to get canceled, but
It is going to get canceled. We'll just leave it. We'll leave it on there,
by
but
nobody showing up. Yeah.
by nobody showing up.
So we'll be together on February 14th.
Oh,
Oh, yes. You know, and divorce is on the 15th.
yeah.
I've never had this much discussion.
You know, I know on a schedule.
I
We
didn't,
should-
I didn't even think of that one.
We should change that too. Not, I mean, it's not a big day for me necessarily.
St. Val.
But I do know my wife is watching right now, so it's a huge day for me, actually. We definitely need to eliminate that. The date. She does watch it. I know she does.
That's funny.
Well, what does the board want to do?
Yeah,
Want to take that off or take off Fallon? But take off the 14th, okay.
I think we can remove the 14th. There's not a lot that goes on in February.
Did we agree to take off the 26th as well?
Yeah, leave that on a
Leave
play
it
by
on.
ear.
Play by ear. We'll probably.
It's a whole year.
Probably be
Okay.
26. Every year, the day after Christmas, I go to.
Variance on the agenda that's.
thank you.
And Susan will translate.
Okay, so we are going to remove February the 14th. Other than that, we have a motion to approve
So moved.
by Mary Beth, second by
Second.
David, all in favor?
Aye.
So we're gonna stay St. Hallmark's Day, right?
Say what?
Hallmark's Day. That's what I call it.
St. Hallmark's Day.
Yes. Anyway,
Mr. Chairman, just, we still have a
Oh, yes.
person online. I don't know if they,
Mary Gillard left actually with Garuda.
oh, she's with Garuda. never mind.
Okay.
Marie, you're welcome to stay.
She's probably long gone. She just forgot to look.
Okay.
Like,
Um,
does it read
Staff reports,
where she's on?
health agent.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I just want to update the board on the retail program standards that we're working on. Just a quick review. There are 9 standards. This is specific to food inspections. And for the year 2022, we've met 3 of the standards. So Samantha and I went to the end of the year mentorship meeting. It was held in Denver, Colorado. And we had 2.5 days of meetings out there, and it was other mentors and mentees presenting their standards that they accomplished, and it was a lot of sharing. Everybody works together. Everybody has different ideas, different ways of doing things, and so it was very helpful to get some information, so that way when we start working on other standards, we have a good way of approaching it. I was invited to present standard 3 to the FDA and the NACCHO quarterly meeting. That was in October, so I had done that. The food permit renewals done. Those went out in September and they were due November 1st, so we didn't have anybody that had to come before the board for operating without a permit. And and lastly, turkey tips, if anybody is interested, if they have any questions about what temperatures to cook turkey to, how long leftovers are good for, on our website, we have turkey tips, and you can find that by going under resources, under residents, under food safety, and you'll see a link there to the USDA for turkey tips.
Wonderful.
And don't wash your turkey.
That's right, don't wash your
Don't wash
turkey.
your turkey.
That causes cross-contamination.
Yes.
Bacteria gets all over the
Yes.
sink and counter.
I made the mistake and I said, wash your turkey, but it's don't wash.
Don't
your turkey.
wash your turkey.
Wash it, yeah. And wash your hands.
Always
Wash your hands, but not your turkey.
Questions?
Well, Marlene, I'm glad that you brought that up about, it was pretty exciting to see that you were requested to present. So thank you for,
I was excited, yeah,
yeah, I bet it was.
to do it, yeah.
Yeah,
And we have your presentation here,
Yes.
yeah.
which was outstanding.
Yeah, it's
Yes,
fantastic.
Yes, so congratulations, that's great.
And, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind.
please.
And I hate to channel my inner Dr. Saltzman. But, I saw that on both yours and Sam's report that there was a mice found in 2 establishments. And just, just because somebody sees a mouse, it doesn't mean that it's unsanitary.
It doesn't mean that there's an infestation. They
Infestation.
seem to come in and they're in the dining room.
They get, because it's cold out, they're trying to find.
Or exactly, yeah.
And not that they shouldn't call or report if they feel like they need to.
Exactly. And when we go out, there's never an issue in the kitchen.
Right.
So we also check the kitchen, the food storage, and it just seems to be isolated in the dining room. And everybody uses pest control. And that's the other thing we look at too. We look at pest control invoices, to see when they were last there, make sure that they're treating for rodents. And so there hasn't been any issues.
Yes, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good point.
And again, certified, serve safe instructor and registered serve safe examination proctor. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm looking
I love
to,
that. I think it's awesome.
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking to maybe February or March, have a class for the food establishments person in charge. So I just got to get some, I gotta look at the calendar and reserve the room and get the supplies in. So, and we're gonna start by targeting these smaller businesses. So the independently owned, the ones that seem to always have trouble keeping somebody who's certified, where your large chains, they don't usually have a problem.
Right.
And it's an 8-hour program
It is. I'm going to break it down into 2 days.
into 2 days. And just to let everyone know, Marlene has agreed if anybody would like to at some point, she will have a Board of Health program. And I surely would like to take the course.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay? 2 days.
Very cool.
Very cool. And then you'd proctor our exams, correct?
Well, I would do more of an informal food safety training. Because this training is geared more towards somebody who works in the restaurant, because it's not only food, it's other things.
But I need the,
Okay, you can take the test. I know he's just really.
I love.
So
taking
Marlene,
tests.
what you're saying is that you're gonna dumb it down for us.
As long as I gotta take the test. I want to take the test. All right, thank you very much. Do I have a motion to approve the health agent's report?
So moved.
Mary Beth, second by Andrea, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much. 5-0. The next is the environmental engineer.
Good evening. Couple of highlights. As you can see from our report, we had a number of releases that we responded to around town. Everything from home heating oil, outdoor storage tank that had a pinhole in the bottom and the contents got fully discharged. It was quite a big one. And then we had some smaller ones. They've all been incorporated into DEP's oversight under the MCP. So they're in various stages of cleanup. The 2 smaller ones from the pole mounted transformer and the compactor were cleaned up immediately. There's some ongoing work at the residential spill because they had to install some monitoring wells to track. Yeah, it was a bad one. And
How much was spilled
what?
at the residence? How much heating oil was?
Roughly 260 gallons. Tank, he had just filled the tank.
Oh.
Yeah. So that was a bit of a cleanup, but there's LSPs overseeing all of these and they are in the system and keep an eye on the ones that are ongoing. the diesel fuel release in the parking lot, that was a rather large release as well. But fortunately, it rained heavily that day, which was the unfortunate part, but it got contained in a part of a detention system, a stormwater detention system. So they were able to pump it all out and clean that portion of the detention system so it didn't escape the property.
Oh, good.
So then I just also wanted to point out that today, Mike and I completed all the HMR, we did the last HMRF inspection. So thanks very much to Mike and Susan for helping with those this year, but we got all 120 of them done for the year, and then we'll start again next year.
Good feeling.
But Mike and I did the last one today. And then, I'm working with Sarah right now to do the annual permitting of all the septic and grease haulers.
Mhm. Good. Thank you for everything and
Sure.
is there any other questions?
Just Lifetime, I saw the review there. Do we go back and double check them, like do a secondary review?
Typically, we ask them to provide photographic evidence of their repair,
There, okay.
and I think I got that for them.
Oh, okay.
Double check.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
If no other questions, can I have a motion to approve?
Someone?
David McSweeney, second.
Second?
Second by Mary Beth. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Associate Director of Public Health. Do you have anything that you'd like to talk about?
Absolutely. Good evening, Board. I'd like to update you on a couple things. We have now officially issued or will be issuing continuing education credits, contact hours for nurses, EMTs, and social workers. We did start this kind of as a retention effort, a bit of an incentive to have people come to training. If they do more trainings, maybe they'll participate more in our volunteer events. That was
I had a question about pharmacists. Is that a separate?
that would be a separate entity entirely, and I'm not sure that the trainings we give would necessarily hit on those required CEUs, and I'm not sure we have too many volunteers that fall in that category either, but that could be worth looking into.
Now, the other question I had is who is giving the CEUs? I know we can't give CEUs, so it has to go through a second party. Who is getting those through?
So for nursing, we are following state guidelines. So we are the issuing
Okay.
sponsor group, if you will. For EMTs and social workers, we are going through both it's the National Social Workers Association of Massachusetts for the social workers, and it's I'm not sure what the acronym is on the Massachusetts Emergency Services Council, I believe it is, for the EMTs. And we've been granted, at least for our psychological first aid class, we've been granted the ability to give contact hours to those who have attended and completed the survey.
Thank you. Awesome. Any other questions?
And one other thing I did want to bring to the attention of the board is we are short a nurse, and I have been kind of filling in, covering some of the viral hemorrhagic fever contact monitoring that we've been getting in Burlington. So these are not cases, just contacts, usually travelers from Uganda. And we are just monitoring them for any symptoms and evaluating them for risk based on where they have been in country.
Thank you very much. That's great. Any other questions for us? Do I have a motion to approve the Associate Director of Public Health report?
So moved?
Mary Beth, second.
Second.
Second by Gail. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Director of Public Health. So we have under her report, the associate health inspector, and we have probably the public health nurse. Is still a report for that? Her last report?
Basically, like Mike said, we've been covering Maven, Mike's been doing a lot on, we've been,
So let's do Samantha Hardy's,
have a,
the Associate Director Public, the Associate Health Inspector. Let's do her first, and then we'll ask you about the public health.
okay.
So she had, and I'll ask her colleague, her senior colleague, our health agent, she had a number of closings, 2 closures.
Just one, but it didn't really get closed.
Was this
I
part of the permitting process?
I was surprised to see it in the report because my understanding was she went out to post that it was closed and the woman ran up and, had her paperwork or something, right?
It wasn't actually, so we did the permit renewals for the food service establishments, and the protocol that we have is that because, sometimes in the past, it's been very difficult to get people in, they go past the deadline. They, technically, if they don't have their application and their fee into us, they don't have a food service permit. So we've been going out this year and past, this is our protocol. If you don't get the application and the fee into us, we're going out that next day and closing them. So we had, Sam had gone out to this one establishment, and they happened to see her at the door. She was just about to post the closure sign on, and the woman came running over and said, I have my application, I have my fee. And so she really didn't need to close them, but she did spend time going out there, and she was actually there in the process of closing somebody, but didn't actually have to do it.
Okay. Now we can go on and to the Director of Public Health.
Yep.
What's going on with the nurse? Where are we at?
So we did pull the ad, as we discussed. We haven't posted it again. I was thinking maybe asking Joanne to do that, and then maybe around the beginning of the year to repost. We did have Chris come in to do some flu clinics. She came in and did one for the public. Unfortunately, there wasn't many people who signed up. We advertised it. We had, we had it in all the BCAT and the newspapers. And I think she only gave out maybe 10 vaccines. It was really not many people at all. So we have flu vaccine available. We could have her come in and give out the flu vaccine, but it just doesn't seem as if, we have many people who actually want it now. So in my report, I did provide the flu statistics on the flu clinic. And we did, around the same that we did last year. Last year, we did 539. This year, we did 507 at the flu clinic. So I thought that was pretty good, a little bit less, but not that much less. So we gave out most of our high dose. I think we only have like 5 doses left of the high dose. We have quite a few doses of the regular dose and just have not been able to give it out.
So if someone calls,
It's not too late.
you have to pull either one of the nurses in from the volunteer
Yeah.
or Christine if she's available.
Yeah, yeah. I was hoping to get more people on the day that Chris was available to come in, but we just couldn't get anybody to sign up. So, yeah, we could have another one and try to give more away and have a volunteer come in. But
So how much do we have left? Are we overbuying now? This is the material that we bought, correct?
yes, so I don't know exactly, but so we're allowed to return, I think, what did we buy? Like, we bought around 500 of the regular doses. We're allowed to return, I think it was like 15%, and get reimbursed for that. So what's that, like 75 doses or something like that. So we have more than 75 doses.
Do they do
So-
a clinic? I know like a lot of jobs on site, do they do one for the town? Do they do a separate one? Like, do you do one for town employees?
Well, that's what we were trying to do on the day that Chris came in. We had a few town employees. I mean, we had very minimal. I think most it probably was town employees and a few members of the public. But it wasn't many at all. So, I mean, I don't know. You know, usually that doesn't happen. Usually we give out to at least the 15%, but it just was very different this year.
Yeah, I just saw an article on flu vaccines across the country, and they're saying that there's 4 million people got 4 million less this year vaccinated for flu versus last year. So.
For some reason, did they say why people? And
No, they blamed it. They didn't blame it. They associated it with coronavirus, and people feel like they got boosted for coronavirus, and or they're boosted out. They didn't want to do a flu vaccine, right? So
yeah,
but the assumptions only.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes in past years, if there's more flu around, people hear it on the news, they're looking for their flu vaccine. I mean, if it becomes now that people want it, we have it, and we could do a clinic, but I don't know if we're gonna be able to give it away.
Yeah. We did the clinic a little bit later this year too, right?
Yeah, we always do it towards the end of October, because that's when Wayne prefers, because, it's the best time to get it.
We had a emergency subcommittee meeting based on a loophole that we found in the recent town meeting approval. And you're going to present something December 12th, is that correct?
The 13th is the next meeting, right, I believe.
Our meeting is
Yeah.
13th.
Yeah, and then we're presenting some changes to the biological safety regulations at the December 13th.
13th.
And I will be working on, or am working on, new regulations for hazardous materials. And I've also want to roll in the pre-demo type of thing that we do into that as well. And I'm hoping to get that to you next year, but, yeah.
But we will have something December 13th, is that correct?
Yes, yep. One other thing, this past year, up until December, we got a what's called a Nature Rise grant. It was for 25,000. We bought, some items for our flu clinic, a Verico cooler, some medical rolling carts. And we also had several trainings. So the psychological first aid training, some other trainings that Dr. Shah did, all paid for under this grant. So there was an opportunity to extend that. So I applied to extend that grant to get another additional around $8,700. And most of that is for additional trainings up until June. So hopefully we'll get it. If we do, it's going to be for CPR training, bloodborne pathogens, mental health first aid, basic sign language training. So hopefully we'll be able, we're in the process now of just looking into scheduling those from now until June. And I should be hearing in the next few weeks whether or not we got the additional 8,700.
That's great.
Thank you.
For the record, Thursday night's program for Dr. Shah was outstanding. Thank you very much to your associate director who coordinated that.
Yes.
I forgot, thank you. Anything else?
Yeah, just, we got I think we all got a letter about boarding / well-being. And I know you did an investigation. I mean, we feel like we're in a good path there.
Yeah, so it's still an open case, and it has been, we've been working on it for quite a while. We have partnered with Karen DiRienzo from the police department, who's a social worker, to assist with that as well, and she's been doing a great job in helping with that and helping out the resident. And she's making good progress. And I'm hoping that the next time, we were very close the last time we were there for an inspection, which was a week or so ago. And I'm hoping that our next inspection will be able to close it out because everything will be.
Great, that's good to hear.
Good.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the lead on that.
Motion to approve the Director of Public Health report.
So moved.
Mary Beth, second.
Second.
Second David, all in favor?
Aye.
Well, happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
You know, you can just jump right in there, you know?
Happy Thanksgiving. It's been a very busy time period for the Board of Health. Lots going on, a lot of companies coming to town. We're very busy. So with that, I thank everybody for your support. I thank our professional staff. I thank the board, and I wish you all happy Thanksgiving. Good night. Can you adjourn, please?
Motion, so moved.
Second by Andrea. All in favor? Aye, 5-0.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.